Causeway Street Podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Pavone, Joel Pavone, Mr. Sean Dutra.
Hey, this is Leon Poe, man. You listening to Causeway Street Podcast.
What's up, y'all? This is Kenny Anderson.
Hi, this is Tyler Zeller from the Boston Celtics.
Y'all listen to the Causeway Street Podcast.
For all you new listeners out there, I'm your host, Joseph Pavone. I'm joined as usual by my two co-hosts.
I'm Sean Dutra. What's up? So
yeah,
like
talk
long
about
walks
yourself.
on the beach.
There you go. Joel Pavone. What up?
I'm a Pisces.
The most romantic.
It leads off with that.
The most romantic sign in all of Zodiac.
Oh.
You couldn't tell by my voice already.
Oh.
Sexy. I'm the producer of this ensemble that we call Causeway Street. In case you missed it.
Hey, Bill Walton here, Celtics 1986. You're listening to the Causeway Street Podcast. Yeah, come here for nothing but the truth. This is where dreams come true. Thank you, Boston, for my life.
Where are we going?
You guys are such homers.
It's your boy Tay Rozier. You're listening to the Causeway Street Podcast. Now listen to my boys Joe, Sway, Joel, and Sean.
KYRIE, walk us through that final game-winning shot by Bradley.
Supposed to be, into the body. We got us a little separation there, and he got open. Al Horford got a good screen on T-top. He was wide open. Bounced on the rim for a little bit, and got a game winner. We got a slice of some humble pie. So, got a lot to learn going forward. But they hit us in the mouth, and now it's our job to hit back.
A lot of things went wrong. They moved the ball like Double T said, 28 assists, and they kept us at bay. We couldn't get stopped, so we couldn't get out in transition a lot. And those guys made plays. They got some second chance points. We only had 2 fast break points, so they neutralized what we wanted to do.
One of the good things about this team, we're able to believe in whatever Brad draws up. If it's good play, bad play, whatever it is, we all believe in it, and I think that always helps because you're able to just read and react after that.
Really just coming in is, I just kept telling myself, you have nothing to lose, just go out there and play. You've been working hard throughout this whole year on your game. Just let it flow and let it show.
Yeah, that's been the story of our season, man. Nobody really believed in us, and we just kept fighting, and losing those 2 at home hurt, and we wanted to come here and show that we can play, and it felt good to get that win tonight, and yeah.
After getting blown out of the TD Garden on Friday night in Game 2 by 44 points, the Celtics, without Isaiah Thomas, come back from 21 points down at Quicken Loans Arena to extend their season after a game-winning 3 by Avery Bradley to shock the basketball world with a 111-108 win in Game 3. And the Celtics stay alive, and they are coming back to Boston. It doesn't matter what happens in Game 4, but they extend their season at least for the next few days, at least to the end of the week, after a brilliant performance in the second half, after Marcus Smart going off, starting in the place of Isaiah Thomas, scored 27 points, was 7 of 10 from behind the arc, 8 of 14 overall, had 5 rebounds, and led the team in assists with 7 dimes, career high, playoff or regular season for Marcus Smart with 27 points once again. Avery Bradley with the game winner, finished his night with 20 points, 4 assists, and Al Horford comes alive also in this one as he finished with 16 points and 6 assists. And the basketball world is asking, where was LeBron James? 11 points on 4 of 13 from the field. Didn't score a single point in the fourth quarter. Scored only 2 points in the last 18 minutes of the game. And also finished with 6 rebounds and 6 assists and 6 turnovers. That's a bad luck of 6 rolls right there. But Kyrie Irving finished with 29 points, 7 assists, and Kevin Love, who was deadly from the outside in the first half, especially the first quarter, finished with 28 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 of 13 from behind the arc. Welcome to a new episode of the Causeway Street Podcast. My name is Joel Pavone. I'll be joined later on by a special guest via phone to break down this impressive Game 3 victory by the Celtics when everybody had them dead in the water. Like I said at the top of the show, awful showing in Game 2 where, you lose your best player. Isaiah Thomas wanted to come back, but injured his hip, and it looks like he's done for the playoffs. Despite everything that man has been through in the last month and a half, like you can't fault him. He's given everything he's got to this team. So, I mean, the Celtics now have to fight for him. Is the way I see it. They have to fight. They have to make this competitive, and they did that in Game 3. I can't. What else can you say about Marcus Smart? Marcus Smart becomes only the third Celtics player in franchise history to finish with at least 25 points, 5 rebounds, and at least 5 assists in a playoff game. And he joins the likes of Paul Pierce, who did it twice, once in 2002 and once again in 2011, and Larry Legend, baby, Larry Bird in 1986, with that stat line of at least 25 points, at least 5 rebounds, and at least 5 assists. And again, Marcus Smart, a career night, regular season or postseason, 27 points, 7 of 10 from behind the arc. The man was fearless. He was fearless. He didn't care who was guarding him. And how can we not bring up the last play of the game, drawn up by none other than Brad Stevens, who shows once again his genius out of a timeout. With a little less than 11 seconds left to come up with not just a field goal, but they came up with a 3-point field goal, which wasn't really necessarily needed. But because you wanted to kill the clock as much as possible to not give Cleveland the opportunity to tie the game up and send it into overtime. And you win for the win. That was drawn up down to a T, rotating. And you know what? I didn't even know who that ball was even going to go to. No idea. And let's not forget my man Jonas. Came in for the first time in a very long time. Was a perfect 4 for 4 from the field. Got in Kevin Love's face a few times, especially when he saw that Kevin was flopping. He's like, cut that out. No, I'm not going to have none of that. Play like a man. Play straight up. You know what you're doing. Cut the flopping. Cut that shit out. That's Jonas Jerebko for you. Don't mess with the Swedish assassin. That's what I'm going to call him now. The Swedish assassin. If Amir Johnson's not going to go for Game 5, or he won't start he won't start in Game 4, Brad has Jonas waiting. He's waiting to pick up those minutes because Amir Johnson, he did injure his shoulder after Kevin Love tried to, I don't know, for lack of a better term, injure Amir Johnson on the similar play that Kelly Olynyk did to him 2 years ago in the first round of the 2015 playoffs. We all remember that, right? That's when Kelly Olynyk was labeled a dirty player. And he's been stuck with that label ever since. But it's okay when Kevin Love does it, right? That was okay because it's not like Amir Johnson, according to the basketball analysts, very important in this series for the Celtics. But nonetheless, I digress. So the Celtics now have an opportunity to shut up a lot of naysayers, shut up a lot of critics, because if they thought they couldn't win with Isaiah in the lineup, now with Isaiah out of the lineup, it's a whole new ballgame, right? Because who is Cleveland going to focus in now on in Game 4? Is it Marcus Smart? Is it A.V. Bradley? Is it Jonas Jerebko? Is it Al Horford? Like, that ball is not going to just stay stagnant. And Cleveland just not going to just focus on one player. You can't just focusing on one player because you don't know who that go-to guy is going to be come game 4. Hell, Marcus could come up with a dud in game 4, and he'll still be important. He'll still make an impact, at least I think, in my opinion, in terms of fighting and making the series competitive once again. You know, after game 2, I got all this hate and all this, you know, all these questions from so-called basketball fans who haven't said anything to me during the playoffs, or minimal things. Or actually, you know what? After every Celtics loss, and the first round was after they were down 0-2. Oh, this team's supposed to be a 1 seed. This team is supposed to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. You guys are not even going to make it out of the first round. Sweep. And then in the second round against the Wizards, when they lost both games in Washington, and the series was tied 2-2. It wasn't like they were even down in the series. In fact, the Celtics were either tied or they led in the series. And yet, no, the Celtics are no good. Get rid of Isaiah. He's not a superstar. He's not a max contract player. And then Isaiah goes off for 53 on his late sister's birthday. And then he gets injured in game 6, which no one knows about. He re-injures his hip that he had injured earlier in the season. And the Celtics still have a chance to win that game, or on the error of the refs, not realizing that there should have been at least one more second on that game clock. And after losing in game 6 in Washington, coming back home where they haven't lost against Washington, where Washington was a completely different team at the TD Garden, but yet I get messages like, "Oh, nope, Celtics is done. This is as far as they're gonna go. John Wall is a beast. Bradley Beal is gonna take over, or Isaiah Thomas is not what everybody wants him to be." And then what does Isaiah Thomas do in Game 7? Double-double, 29 points, 12 assists on the way to demolishing the Washington Wizards. And while John Wall was celebrating on the scorer's table in Game 6, he went silent when his team needed him the most. So this time around, playing injured in the first 2 games, Isaiah Thomas, right, giving all the credit only to the Cavaliers defense. That he can't get through the Cavaliers defense. He's not able to get to the hoop. You know, he's 5'9". Trade him. You guys got the number 1 pick now. Move on without him. And he gets injured. The Celtics shut him down. They shut him down for the rest of the playoffs. And now that the Celtics are playing more freely, and they're playing like they have nothing to lose, and now the general consensus is, you see, the Celtics can play without Isaiah Thomas. The Celtics can move Isaiah Thomas. But it's only one game, right? At the end of the day, it's only one game. But it's great to see the Celtics with some life. It's great to see the Celtics put up a fight, something that you didn't see in the first 2 games. That's what pissed me off. Like, forget the losses. You know, and we know I'm not that optimistic to think that the Cavaliers are not the better team in the series. Obviously, the Cavaliers are the better team in the series. But my whole thing, and a lot of other Celtics fans and a lot of other just basketball fans in general, wanted to see at least a fight. You know, the Celtics put up a fighting chance, which is what you saw in the second half of Game 3. That's what was missing in the first 2 games. The effort, the fight, the grit, showing that you got balls to go up against the best in the world in LeBron James. And look at the end result. Let's not kid ourselves. LeBron did not respect the Celtics in Game 3. He just thought that he was going to be passive. He just thought that the rest of his team was going to just take care of business, and he just didn't have to, you know, for lack of a better term, kill himself to try to take a 3-0 commanding lead in this series. And now you've let the Celtics back in. Again, I'm not saying the Celtics are going to win this series, but We've seen it time and time again. When the Celtics' backs are against the ropes, they'll hit you in the mouth. And just like KYRIE said in the intro, they got a slice of that humble pie. And then LeBron afterwards had nothing but good things to say about the Celtics, that they made plays and the Cavs didn't at the end of the day. And then Avery Bradley saying that the Celtics trust in Brad Stevens, and Marcus Smart finally believed in himself. While his teammates and his coaches always believed in him, he said, fuck it, I'm going to play like I got nothing to lose. And then Jonas, caps off the evening by saying, we respected the Cavs too much in the first 2 games. That shit ends now. The Celtics held the Cleveland Cavaliers in the last 18 minutes and 39 seconds of Game 3 to 31 points, 30% shooting from the field. They shot 2 of 13 from behind the arc, and LeBron James only scored 1 point in that span as the Celtics snapped the Cavaliers' 10-game winning streak in this postseason, but 13 games overall dating back to last year's finals. Celtics would score 55 points in that span with 56% shooting and going 11 of 20 from behind the arc. Even though I'm riding solo today, but it doesn't matter because we still do our thing here at the Causeway Street Podcast. We'll talk about how the Celtics should play going forward in the series. We'll also talk about Isaiah Thomas's injury and touch upon a little bit of some options that the Celtics could potentially deal with come the offseason. And, of course, we'll end this episode the way we do every episode of the Causeway Street Podcast with, in case you missed it. But joining me right now is Zach Peliquin, writer for the Causeway Street blog, here to break down Game 3 with me, since I'm writing dolo for this episode at least. How we doing, Zach?
Doing well after finally the Celtics getting a little dignity back in Game 3. So honestly, I know it sounds crazy, but it's a series again. So I couldn't be happier.
Definitely, right? It was a must-win in Game 3. One could argue that it should have been a must-win in either one of the first 2 games as well. But, no Isaiah Thomas, so the Celtics really have nothing to lose, right?
Well, exactly. I think it was a game where, and I'll tell you what, this series, Avery Bradley has shown more to me in terms of his character and his leadership with this team than I ever thought I was going to see on him, because he's such a quiet guy by nature. But after hearing him when Game 2 came to a close and they were interviewing everyone in the locker room, and just hearing the way that he was talking, I kind of knew that you were going to see a little bit different of a Celtics team coming out in Game 3. And with Isaiah being hurt, backs totally against the wall. And I think at that point, the expectation for Boston had kind of fallen off the face of the earth. So I had a little bit of a feeling we were going to see a better effort. Did I think they were going to win? Absolutely not. I had no, not my wildest imagination after watching that Game 2. I think they were going to be able to do what they did in Game 3 and come back. And even in the first half, it still looked like they were in that slump and they were just scared of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And then the second half of Game 3, we all know the story. We all watched it happen. It was absolutely perfect. It looked like the Celtics team that we've known pretty much all season long.
After coming off that god-awful loss on Friday night in Game 2, it couldn't get any worse than that. We thought it couldn't get any worse after Game 1, and apparently we were wrong. or most that were, that are Celtics fans and most basketball analysts were like, it can't get any worse for the Celtics after Game 1. But Game 2 happened. I was talking about it earlier. As a basketball fan, that was just embarrassing to watch, because I just feel like realistically we know that the Celtics are not going to win this series, right? That's the premise around the nation, around the world, for those that are, hardcore basketball fans. But you did expect for the Celtics to put up a fight. And it took a 44-point loss to say, you know what? Our leader's down. No one has us in this series. Most people have us getting swept. So let's play like we got nothing to lose now. And the end result, 21-point comeback. We saw in the last series how, especially in Game 7, where Kelly Olynyk came out of nowhere and did what he did. How about Marcus Smart? Mm-hmm. How about Marcus Smart coming out of nowhere And talk about somebody that was due for a game like this.
Yeah, he seriously was. And it's, again, it goes back to that frustration factor that these are guys that the Celtics picked over the last couple of years who we had such high hopes for when they drafted them. And, pretty high first-round picks. I mean, Olynyk was the back end of the draft lottery in Brad's first year. And then they got Marcus all the way at number 6. And, these are guys that we expected to be really, if not cornerstone players, approaching that level. And I hate to say it, but they've been nowhere near that. Marcus has been a nice role player here and there, but he's been incredibly inconsistent throughout his career. And, finally, in a Game 7 against the Washington Wizards, we see Kelly Olynyk finally deliver on some of the promise that we have all thought that he could possibly do. It's just how consistently could he do it. And finally, we get to see him have that game, that real high point and the high watermark of his Celtics career. And then 3 games later, we get to see Marcus Smart when the gun is to this team's head and we needed a performance. He goes out there and has, maybe his best game as a Celtic in his career at Green so far, which was absolutely fantastic. And this is what you expect from Marcus Smart. We don't really, I don't think anyone truthfully can say, yeah, we expect him to hit 7 threes a night. He's never going to be that type of shooter.
Of course.
But
yeah.
The energy he brings, the defense he brings, I mean, he sets the tone, and that's what it is. He can set the tone on the defensive end, and it sparks the whole entire team going forward offensively. He makes those plays where, he'll pass off the ball, he'll be away from the offense for the entire shot clock, and he comes flying in from out with a that dunk. You're like, where the hell did this guy just come from? Yeah. And he had those moments where you're like, he's athletic enough, he's talented enough. I mean, the player that we saw at Oklahoma State was potentially a number 1 overall pick. What happened to that player? And it feels like he just has not grown over the last few years. And now you get to this point where this is, all the bubbles are in here. He's going into a contract year next year. And now he has a chance for the rest of this series to really be the guy. And, his first opportunity was unbelievable. Fantastic work from him.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw a glimpse of the Marcus Smart of Game 3 early in the season when Isaiah was out for a little bit. I believe Brad Stevens, he started him a couple games, and then when Avery Bradley went down, he started a few games as well. And I feel like when his back is up against the wall, that's when Marcus Smart is like, all right, I got to do something because like we need something. We need a spark. And he finally came through. And it's not like he was playing awful in this series because in the first game, I felt like he was the only one putting up like an effort to box out Thompson and make defensive plays, even though there were some stupid fouls called on him that you can't really fault him for that. It's just the way the game was going. But at the same time, though, how good? Well, better question: how different do the Celtics look in terms of when Isaiah's out, running plays and running offensive sets? They put up nearly 30 assists as a team. So. What is it? What in your opinion? What do you think it is? It's just them just playing freely, just going out there and just playing as a team and not worrying about anything else. Because at the same time, the Cavs had no game plan for this, especially when they were up 21. They're like, all right, we got this, and then all of a sudden, you got players like Jonas Jerebko stepping up.
Don't you even dare start in on Jonas Jerebko, all right, baby?
No. I love me some Jonas. Don't get me wrong. I've been asking to see some Jonas since the Washington series, and I don't know why we didn't see him sooner. But he stays ready, comes in, shoots 4 for 4 from the field, 2 clutch 3-pointers. Like how come we can't see this? Better question: how come we have to wait until your season's on the line for a reaction from the Celtics or from Brad Stevens even, because sometimes Brad Stevens looks like he's caught like a deer in the headlights when it comes to certain games or certain moments, especially in this series.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of that classic situation where when you have a player who is a go-to scorer and such a good scorer in the way that Isaiah Thomas has been for the last 2 years, for that matter, he's been such a go-to player that they've been able to give the ball to him and just clear everyone out, set one screen for him, and he's automatic offense. And I think what happens with Boston is when he gets on a roll or when this team is playing well, sometimes they get a little lazy. Sometimes they just say, you know what, give Isaiah the ball, he'll go find a way to put it in the basket, which is great. except for the fact when he's either A, injured and out of the lineup, or B, when he can't get to the basket the way that he wants to, or when he's not shooting the way that he wants to. That's the issue that you have with the Celtics, is that they don't have a lot of shot creators in terms of guys that are just going to take someone off the dribble in the ISO and be able to find baskets. When they're at their best, the ball is moving all over the court. They're highly aggressive on the defensive end, which tends to lead to their offense, I think, more often than not. And they're hitting their open shots. And that's when you see the team play really well. And that's what we saw in the second half of Game 3, is that this team defensively caused Cleveland to just go into a tizzy. They couldn't hit shots from the outside. They didn't even think to go to the inside. I mean, LeBron James, and the conversation that we could have about him, I think could last all evening. But I mean, you're defensively setting yourself up to be successful on the offensive end. That intensity, it just carries over. And I think what happens is, once you see a guy like Avery Bradley or a guy like Jay Crowder, or even Kelly Olynyk or any of the big guys from the outside, they knock down a shot or two, and then you saw Cleveland start to go out at the shooters, and they were rushing after them. The thing that I really loved out of Game 3, is we finally saw the Celtics team, because they had no other options at times, go inside to Al Horford and have the ball hit his hands in the paint, which we don't see happen nearly enough for my liking. But we saw it happen, I'd say, at least a dozen times in the second half of that game, where they just went straight into the post to Al Horford, and he was either making the correct pass on the opposite side of the court to get an open shot for someone on the other side, or he was able to get to the basket quite a few times as well. I thought it was a really good game for the Celtics offense to go find different ways and creative ways to put the ball in the basket. It wasn't just, running that weave at the top of the 3-point line and just calling it a day. You finally saw them try a couple of different things that weren't typically things that you'd see the Celtics offense run off of. So I thought it was a really good night for Brad Stevens, and it was a really good night for the Celtics shooters to be knocking down shots, especially in the second half. First half, I mean, you could debate that it wasn't all too good, but I mean, it looked like the Celtics team that we've grown accustomed to. And that was the comforting thing that we saw of that whole entire Game 3, is that it looked like the Celtics team that has some confidence, that has some fight to them, that has some aggression to them. And that's the team that, all the Celtics fans love. And it was really nice to finally see that a little bit more than the first two games, when I couldn't even recognize this team. It was terrible.
Yeah, I mean, the national consensus, the national media, I feel like since Game 3, since the end of Game 3, is they're talking about, LeBron had a bad game. LeBron was passive. Yep. LeBron didn't do anything, didn't score in the last 16, 17 minutes of the game. It went scoreless in the fourth quarter for the first time since, in the postseason, right? Since I think it was the 2011 NBA Finals, and I think it was Game 4 of that series. And that's all they're talking about. They're not talking about the fact that the Celtics defense was on point for the first time in this series.
Yeah. Finally. I'll tell you what, and I know we've had this conversation a few times, and I know on Twitter it's a huge conversation piece about LeBron James, the greatest of all time conversation, and Nick Wright. Oh my God, just the insufferable love that he has for LeBron James.
Him and
people, him too. Oh my God, it's ridiculous. But these are the types of games that the smart basketball fan who says LeBron's not quite there yet, these are the games that we point to. And I group myself in that probably.
I'm in there too.
Yeah, exactly. Causeway Street firmly in that list. But yes, these are the games that we turn and point to and say, he's not the greatest of all time just because he has these types of games. And all today it was, Michael never had a bad game, or whomever never had a bad game. It's not that he had a bad game. It's because LeBron James completely disengaged from this game. And at some point, I don't know when exactly, the minute that passed that it happened, but he said in his head, you can see it on his face, he just said, well, all right, we don't have it tonight, and just packed it in. If he was LeBron James, the great LeBron James that we know, he could have turned it on for the last 2 minutes of this game and probably won it for them.
He didn't
do it. Mm-hmm. It makes you wonder why. What was it about this game that he thought that he could just step off of it and put in, I would say, 50% effort, if that? What did he think was going to happen when the game started to turn the other way? Why didn't he step in and be that great player? Because it feels like he could have at some point.
Yeah, I mean, he only took 4 shots.
Ridiculous.
He looked completely disengaged, like you said, I don't know. He just and an opportunity to take over and say, all right, you know what? This has gone far enough. Like, you know, we had a 21-point lead. I wasn't killing myself. Everyone else was doing, you know, what they're supposed to do. And now I guess it's my turn to, you know, take over and win this game and take a commanding 3-0 lead at home. But that's not what he did. And it's not the first time. I don't know why everyone's so, like, surprised. It's not the first time we've seen LeBron be like this. So I guess for a lack of a better term, he's not a killer. He's not. You know, Charles Barkley said it on Sunday night. He said he's still chasing Kobe, in his opinion. And I completely agree with that. I completely agree with that statement. He's still chasing Kobe because Kobe was a killer. Michael Jordan is a killer. Like, he doesn't let, you know, games like this go to waste. You know what I'm saying? Not that, you know, and I get the LeBron stands that are going to say, oh, it's just one game. It's just one game. He's entitled to have a bad game. He had won 13 straight postseason games dating back to the finals. It's just one game? Yeah. Really? I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tough pill to swallow. Did you see those Cavs fans at the end of that game? They didn't know what to do. They didn't know. Then, like, I felt like throughout the comeback, like they didn't even help to, like, try to, like, get behind their team. Me, you, and Sean, we talked about this before the series began, that the big three of the Cavs cannot score 20 plus points. Because then it's a wrap. So KYRIE did his job, Kevin Love did his job, but LeBron was like, I think I'm gonna take this night off. I don't know. What do you think? I don't like to go down that road, but I just you know, I give credit obviously to the Celtics and their defense and the fact that the Cavs game plan is, you know, stop Isaiah. So you have no Isaiah. You don't know who the ball's going to. Like that last play that Brad Stevens drew up, ridiculous. And even I didn't know where that ball was going because you had Horford that was hot, you had Marcus Smart that was hot, and to let the clock run down from over almost 11 seconds left to make that shot and leave 0.1 left on the clock. That you couldn't have drawn it more perfect.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Like I said, we finally got to see Brad Stevens in his prime really go out and make some decisions in this game. And I think that is kind of a byproduct. And I don't want to say anything negative about Isaiah Thomas. He's had an MVP caliber season. He has done everything he could have possibly done.
Of course, yeah. No, I completely agree.
So I'm not trying to say anything negative about him, but when he is torn away from this team, it does change the dynamic of what you see out there. And I do think with Isaiah Thomas being off of the floor, it allows Brad Stevens to be a little bit more creative. It allows him to go at this a little bit differently than he normally would because he doesn't have to run the offense through Isaiah. Now it becomes, okay, let's go through the high end. Let's try a couple of these offensive sets that we would have normally have used if Isaiah was out there. There's a lot less isolation. There's a lot more ball movement. There's a lot more multiple screens within singular play that you're seeing 2 or 3 guys moving at one time because he knows that he can't just say, oh, Marcus, get to the rim. Because it's not going to happen. Like, he can do it maybe once and again. It's not going to happen consistently, though. And that's where you see Brad Stevens' genius. You actually do get to appreciate the fact that he knows how to get players open. He knows how to have offensive sets be run and get certain players into situations where they're going to get the shot that they want, or at least get an opportunity to be able to get a good quality shot off. That's what we saw in the second half, and even for a good portion of the first half of Game 3, which, you know, Brad Stevens is a great coach. You know, I have my qualms with him because of the DeMarcus Cousins thing, because I think he had a lot to do with why he's not Celtic right now. But at the end of the day, he is a very good basketball coach. And he is, in my opinion, for all the coaches in the NBA right now, and maybe of the last decade, I think he gets more out of less than any other coach in the game. He knows how to take these guys and say, you know what? I know what your best skills are, and I'm going to absolutely utilize the hell out of those to make sure that you're as best as you possibly can. So, yeah, I think he did a great job. I think that you expect more of that. I'll be anxious to see what the changes that Cleveland makes in order to be able to kind of combat that. It's tough, though. They don't know where it's going to be coming from going forward. And unless Boston goes stone cold, which is entirely possible from the outside, they're going to have to respect a lot of these players in the lineup in terms of just guys who are going to take these three-point shots. So they're going to have to respect the three for Boston. And unless they go ice cold, Boston's going to have options. They're going to be able to score points, and they're going to be able to stay in these games, I think, from here forward. The big thing for them is going to be defensively, though. We finally saw, and again, I hate throwing any dirt on the Isaiah Thomas, or throwing any dirt in his face, but defensively, they play a much better brand of basketball when Isaiah Thomas is off the floor. They're bigger, they're more physical, and you see 2, 3, 4 guys on that perimeter who are jumping the passing lane, who are creating havoc, and are making it very difficult for Kyrie Irving, for LeBron James, even for Kevin. Actually, Kevin Love didn't really have much of a hard time the other night.
No, not
but
so
you
much.
know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
anyone who had the ball in their hand was uncomfortable, and that's where Cleveland starts to struggle. When they're not comfortable in a game, that's when they give up games. When they're getting physically outmanned, when they're getting hacked up, they don't like that. They don't like the physical game. Can they play it? Yeah, absolutely. We've seen them do it before, but they don't want that game. I played basketball, for most of my life. I hated teams that I knew were going to be physical from start to end. Those are teams that just wear on you mentally, and that's what Boston thrives in. When you see Marcus Smart all over Kyrie Irving, all over LeBron James, and the same thing for Avery Bradley, the same thing for Crowder, and even the big guys get into the mix too. That's when you see them really thrive. And we finally saw that in Game 3 where I said, you know what, screw it. We got nothing to lose. Let's start hacking these guys up. Jonas Jerebko. I mean,
God, that was amazing.
I love Jonas going into it, but that Kevin Love thing,
that was
tell
great.
me you didn't love that.
That was great. He's like, stop fucking flopping. You know what you're doing. Cut that shit out before I kick the shit out of you. I love it. Jonas. And then Kevin Love's face is like, what's up with this guy? Oh, don't mess with Jonas.
He had nothing to say.
I know, that's what I'm saying. But his face
you're right.
his face was priceless. He was like, what? He's like, what? This is what LeBron has been teaching me. Like, come on, I'm trying to do my thing here. Fuck you. He's like, Jonas. That was great. That was just the fact that the rebounding discrepancy was, in single digits between the Celtics and the Cavs in Game 3, which is always great. That's something good to take away from a game like this. Yeah, the Celtics ended up shooting better than 47% from the field, which was crazy to think that the Cavs in the first half were shooting like 66%, and they ended up shooting better.
They were unconscious.
Yeah, and it was mostly because of Kevin Love. And let's not kid ourselves. Kevin Love, this series for him, it's personal. It's personal after what happened 2 years ago with him.
It looks like it. It feels like it.
It's personal, big time. I can't stress enough that when everyone pitches in, it's like it's a different team, and it's a team that like you said, that Celtics fans have grown to love, because when you have multiple guys in double figures, when you have everybody passing the ball. Even in those games early in the playoffs where Thomas, barely scored 20 points or was scoring under 20 points, and they still won the game. That's how they should play now. The difference is obviously he's not in the lineup, and it looks like he's out for the playoffs. So I gotta ask you this question, because this is like, I'm gonna play devil's advocate, okay? Because you've been hearing it. You've been hearing it ever since the conclusion of Game 3. Oh, are the Celtics better without Isaiah Thomas? Should the Celtics consider trading Isaiah Thomas? And I got to hear your take on this.
Are they better? No. Isaiah Thomas is by far the most talented offensive player that they have. Really, no question about it in my mind. Are they better defensively? Yes, they absolutely are. They're just bigger. They're more physical. They have the right elements. They have guys who are just, to be totally honest, just better defenders than what you get from Isaiah Thomas. But on the whole, no, they are not a better team. And anyone who tells you that, you haven't watched enough Celtics this year. There's just no way. Do you think about trading him? I mean, it seems like that's a bit of a quantum leap, to go from scoring 50 like a week ago for you to help you get through that Wizards series, to saying, we don't really need him. With that in mind, it's kind of quick. It feels like we might have jumped a few steps there on the way, but. In terms of trading him, though, if you look at it, I don't even want to open this conversation because there's so much to really hash out this offseason. This is a really important offseason for Danny Ainge. He's got 3 huge components of this team that are going to be free agents coming in next season. He's got possibly as many as 6 players on the current roster who are going to be free agents at the end of this season. He has to contend with his first overall pick and what he wants to do there. I mean, there's just so much going on. that, you know what, it's hard to say what the right decision is. Now, if I told you that, you say Anthony Davis became available and you had to trade Isaiah Thomas to get him, the answer is yes. You would do that.
That's a no-brainer.
Or, I mean, a player of elite caliber.
Yeah.
So, yeah, can you trade him? Absolutely. Are you actively trying to shop him? I don't think so. I think this guy, he's shown what type of player and what type of guy he really is. He's just made of the toughest stuff around. And I have, the utmost respect for him. And I did coming into this playoffs, but the things that he's done since the beginning of this playoffs have really solidified in my mind what type of leader he is for this team and what type of guy he is. And, I was the first one to say I don't want to see him getting a max contract. If somebody came for a reasonable trade, get rid of him. And I've changed my stance on that. He, to me, has now personified what you want from a Celtics player. With that in mind, the contract situation is going to be tough. There's no guarantees out there that they're going to be able to get something that makes sense for both sides done. That's going to dictate a lot of what we see come this summer. But in the story, my bottom line, I'm not looking to trade him, but if something came along, I'd be willing to listen.
Okay. Yeah, I can live with that. I mean, only because of the way he was playing in the first two games. But then again, we didn't know he was injured. We had no idea that he had.
Yeah, true.
He had re-aggravated his hip injury in Game 6 of the Wizards series, and then he came out and did his thing in Game 7 in that series.
Yeah.
So, and the quick turnaround, the day off, and then right back at it, playing at the Garden, Eastern Conference Finals. That's a lot. That's a lot of pressure, and in terms of looking at you as you're the guy, like you're gonna take this team to the promised land, or at least fight for it. You know what I mean? And we weren't seeing like the explosiveness anymore, and we weren't necessarily seeing like the hard nosed, gritty like Isaiah Thomas. That's like he was picking up technical fouls like it was nothing, and I mean not just him, but other players as well, and freaking even Brad Stevens. But my point is, something was off with him, and not that I'm happy that I'm like, oh, well, at least he's injured. That was the whole reason, because obviously the Celtics would love to have him out on the floor. But at the same time, if he's not 100% or close to it, hell, if he's not even like 60%, that's damaging your team. And so to shut him down and to have the Celtics just play, balls to the wall is, I guess right now a blessing in disguise. But do you think, if the Celtics extend this series, I mean, it's definitely going to be a Game 5, so they are coming back to Boston, which is great news. Mm-hmm. Do you see him coming back at any point in this series if it goes deep?
I don't. The thing is, I don't know a ton about the injury itself. From what I've heard, it's a torn or partially torn labrum in the hip, which is one of those injuries that if he was in the NFL, he'd probably play through it in one way or another. They give him a few weeks and he would come back. But that's the thing. They give him a few weeks. Like, he's not going to be, 2, 3, 4, 5 days later, just put some ice on it and you'll be good to go. So my assumption is that he's probably done for the postseason regardless of what happens. And I don't hold that against him. I mean, this isn't an injury that you could just be like, yeah, whatever. I can just shake it off and like go back out and go do my thing. Especially for someone who his game is predicated off his agility. So when he makes a cut or when he makes a quick move, I'm sure that hip is probably a shooting pain right through his leg. So I can't imagine it's comfortable, or it allows him to do what he needs to do on the court. So honestly, I would say even if there's a chance that they can get him back, they have to have a legitimate shot at winning this series. It can't just be, okay, they go out and they lose Game 4, they come back to Boston in Game 5. Oh yeah, let's put him out there. I mean, he needs to think about himself as well, because we're talking, like we said, he's going into the last year of a contract, and he has a legit shot at being able to make, if not max money, 20 plus, 25 plus $1 million a year. And, punting on that opportunity, I think would be very risky. And even though he's a competitor, I'm sure he wants to be out there. It just seems to make more sense for him to kind of close up shop, get better for next season, and give it another run for him.
Voted All-NBA second team honors. What do you think? Well deserved?
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, yeah. We've been talking about him all year long as a top 5 MVP guy. And if he was any other position, he might have had a shot to get into this team and possibly be an MVP for that matter. What a year. What a year. I mean, you go back through the chronicles of great seasons since our lifetimes as Celtics fans. This might be the best single season we've seen for an individual player, since we've been Celtics fans. He's been unbelievable. Top of the league in scoring, or one of the top scorers in the league. The game-winning shots, the fourth quarters that he had, unbelievable. This is a team that's going to go down as one of the great ones in Celtics history, and well deserved for him.
Yeah, I mean, with all this, with the Celtics grabbing the number 1 pick, and obviously what we saw at the beginning of this series, I had to bring that up because it's an interesting topic. Not that I agree with it in terms of going forward with with plans. There's going to be, like you said, this is going to be a big off season for the Celtics and for Danny Ainge and company. So you do want to consider all options here. And I know for me personally, I wouldn't want Isaiah to go. I would love for him to be a part of the future. The injury, I don't know how serious it is. It sounds pretty serious, but they're talking about he might have surgery that they won't know yet until later this week. He'll be reevaluated. If they want to extend the series, not because they hope that he comes back, but just extend the series for just the season that they've had and kind of like honor Isaiah in some kind of way, and just like he did it for them, so it's like let's do it for him type of thing. That'd be great. But at the beginning, before the series started, I had the Celtics losing in 6. But like we've been saying before, like if they lose in 6 games, that's not too shabby of a season for the Celtics, who no one had being the number 1 seed, let alone going all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Cleveland Cavaliers. What do you think going forward? How do you see this playing out?
It's going to be tough. You have to figure that LeBron James is going to re-engage in this series and actually give a shit. So I would assume Game 4, you're going to see the best version of this Cleveland Cavaliers team that you can. With that said, the momentum is now with Boston, firmly with Boston. And I think these players are finally starting to say, hey, we've beaten these guys in the past. We just beat them the other night. There's no reason we can't win a couple more games. There's no reason that we can't be very competitive in this series going forward. And I think they will. I think, Game 4, if I'm the Celtics, Brad Stevens has already shown that he can find a way to get these players open. He can find a way to get open shots for a lot of these different players in areas of the court that they want to get shots off of. So I think that's, you're all set on that end of the court. Defensively, the only tweak I would make is, quite honestly, you have to have a second layer of defense when LeBron James and Kyrie Irving have the ball. You just have to. And we haven't really seen anyone behind that person who's defending whoever has the ball. Because if they ISO with LeBron James and they put Marcus Smart or James Crowder or Avery Bradley or anyone on him, they're going to have one person, Cleveland's going to have one person come over and set a screen, and they're going to try to attack the big. And if LeBron James gets 2 or 3 good, solid, strong steps towards that big man, he'll pass him every time. And it's no disrespect to the big guy. It's just he's that good. He's going to get to the rim. So you have to have a secondary layer of defense that's been behind, which means Kelly Olynyk, Tyler Zeller, whether it's Jonas Jerebko or any of these big guys, even if they have to go over and just foul him and not allow him to get the shot up, make him from the foul line. I mean, we're talking about a guy who shot 67% from the line this year. Like, why not put him on the line a little bit more? Make him earn a few more of these instead of getting to the basket, getting the N1, and getting all these easy opportunities. So that's something I think that they can do a lot better, especially with LeBron James. They really need to do it in Game 3, but I guarantee you Game 4, he's going to be going whole hog. He's going to be going after the rim all game long. So that's one of the big things. The other thing is Boston needs to be more assertive when the ball was up in the air. And I think they've done a much better job about it this series than what we saw against Washington. But Tristan Thompson, for as good a player as he is, and I have a lot of respect for him as a player, even though I think he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder this series. I have no idea where it came from. But you need to find a way to get a little bit more physical with him, and not in the sense of like trying to start a fight, but get in front of him. Stop letting the dude get straight underneath the basket and get these easy boards. He's not a good enough offensive player to be scoring 20 points a night. He's just not. He doesn't have a jump shot. I don't know how he shot as well as he did at the line, but you're talking about a 50% free throw shooter. Like, why the hell is this guy having high teens and low 20s in points? There's no reason for it. And I mean, shout out to Dutra. He was 100% right on that.
Yeah.
He's 100% right on that.
It's the offensive.
Getting under the basket and just ripping down every board he wants
to. Yeah. Well, I mean, the silver lining in that aspect of the offensive boards is they cancel each other out. Each team had 11 offensive rebounds in Game 3. But you're right, though. Thompson can't. You're right. I don't understand how Thompson's getting 20 points or near 20 points. You know, he's been a double machine in this so far through the first 3 games. That's like it's easier said than done. But for game 4, Amir Johnson, ironically enough, his shoulder, he had a little shoulder pain after Kevin Love decided to try to yank it out at the first quarter. I mean, he didn't yank it out, but it looked like he tried to yank it out. Ironically, after Kelly Olynyk did it to him 2 years ago, but that's not a dirty play, right? No, not only when Kelly does it, it's a dirty play.
No, of course not.
So he's been listed as day-to-day Amir Johnson. If it doesn't go, who do you start in that 5th spot?
It's a good question. It's tough to say. And in Brad Stevens we trust. I'll start with that. I think whoever he puts out there is probably the right call. I personally, looking at the lineup the way it's set up, I would say you either go with Kyle Zeller and do the same exact thing that you've done with Amir Johnson, where you basically play in the first couple of minutes, see how things are going, and use his length to try to deter some of those shots into the basket. Yeah. Or you got to go with Jones, brother.
There you go, baby. That's what I was waiting for. That's the answer I was looking for. Because you got another shooter out there. You got another big that will put whoever he's defending on the line, because he's a gritty dude when it comes to defending. Like he doesn't, people don't praise him enough, obviously because he doesn't play enough minutes at times. But when he's been called upon, especially in the postseason, like he does what he does. Like, and Jonas is always ready. So yeah, if I had to pick someone to start in game 4, if Amir's not ready to go, Jonas, baby, insert Mr. Jonas right in there. The Swedish assassin. Put him in there.
Yeah, I mean he plays tough and he seems to like the limelight.
Of course.
So why the heck not?
Well, he is Zach Peliquin, Causeway Street blog writer. Find his articles up on our homepage, and I think we're talking about it earlier about the decision that Danny Ainge is going to have to make, whether it's this offseason or next offseason. He just put up a piece on that, so look for that on CausewayStreetBlog.com. Pelly, where can they find you on the internet? Twitter?
Yeah, Twitter is usually good to get me, at OTW Sports Radio. Probably the only place, actually. I think of it. Well,
you're also live tweeting during the games, which is always good. So I love that. I love that back and forth banter that he has with the Causeway Street Twitter as well. That's always great. You did predict.
Always.
You did say Celtics in 6 after Game 3. Got a lot of love off of that tweet, so that's always good. Had to retweet that real quick. But Zach, always a pleasure, man. Thanks for stopping by. And we'll talk soon. I think this might go a little further than a lot of people, are giving the Celtics credit for. So let's see the fight. Yeah. Let's see the grit and ball Celtics that we all love.
Love it, man. Love it. Hopefully we can see this thing get to 6, maybe 7.
There you go. Come back to Boston and anything goes when that happens, right? Game 7. That's
exactly.
All right, Zach, man. I appreciate it, man. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, man.
Later, bro. Now it's time to put a bow on this episode of the Causeway Street Podcast the way we do with every episode with...
In case you missed it.
After the Celtics' phenomenal Game 3 win on Sunday night, ESPN's BPI has the Celtics' chances of winning Game 4 at 29%. Ooh, that's harsh. I mean, the Cavs, even though they haven't lost in quite a while in the postseason, usually after a loss they come back pretty strong. But with this new attitude that the Celtics displayed in the second half of Game 3, who knows, right? Let's see what happens. In case you missed it, for Game 4, Amir Johnson is listed as day-to-day. It will be a game-time decision after Kevin Love injured Amir Johnson's shoulder in Game 3. And for the Cavaliers side, Deron Williams was not at Tuesday morning shoot-around. It's feeling under the weather, and it's probable for tonight's Game 4. In case you missed it, the Golden State Warriors have reached their 3rd consecutive NBA Finals by sweeping the San Antonio Spurs in 4 games after a 129-115 win in San Antonio on Monday night. Puts the Warriors now at 12-0 this postseason as they await the winners of the Cavaliers and Celtics. This is only the 3rd time in the Greg Popovich era that his team has been swept by an opponent in the Western Conference Finals. Obviously, this will be Durant's second appearance in the NBA Finals, his first time since 2012. Speaking of the Warriors, Coach Steve Kerr's status is still up in the air if he'll coach in the finals. So Mike Brown will continue his duties right now as the interim head coach of the Warriors as they look to win their first NBA championship since 2015. In case you missed it, this week marks, on May 21st, the 45th birthday of the greatest rapper of all time, the Notorious B.I.G. Rest in peace, and shout out to the Bad Boy family. This, in case you missed it, short and sweet, is brought to you by the CLNS mobile app. Make sure you download to your Android or your Apple device for the best sports coverage on the internet, especially when it pertains to this city of Boston. You can listen to the Causeway Street podcast on there if you haven't already. That's the CLNS mobile app. You can also follow us on social media, including Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and Twitter, all at Causeway Street. And big shout out to the founder and beat writer for Causeway Street, Josue Pavone. It's his 29th birthday today, so shout out, little brother, to you. Hope you enjoy yourself. And who knows, maybe the Celtics will give you a birthday gift. Make sure you head over to CausewayStreetBlog.com for all your coverage of the Eastern Conference Finals. We mentioned it earlier. Zach has a piece up there about some potential options for Danny H to consider this offseason when it comes to his guard situation and the NBA draft. And who knows? Who knows how the rest of the series is going to go? But like I said at the top of the show, I believe it's going to be much more competitive. So let's hope for that, because the Golden State Warriors are going to be hanging out and chilling, waiting for the outcome of this series. Thanks again to Zach Peliquin for checking in. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at OTW Sports Radio. Subscribe to the Causeway Street Podcast on iTunes. You can rate us. Check us out on all podcast outlets as well. Until next time, my name is Joel Pavone. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.